So we're here talking about sustainability, and we're with Roger Martella. He's the Chief Sustainability Officer for GE. And Roger, you're a great person to really speak to us about this topic because you've got a diverse background, having been a lawyer working on environmental issues in government before coming into GE, so a different perspective, which is important here because sustainability is such a huge topic. It means many different things to many different people. Of course, I'm sitting here in Dubai. We're in the midst of a huge hydrocarbon producing region, shipping oil and gas all across the globe. And you're there working at GE, where you guys are big producers of gas-fired turbines, jet engines. So really, your job as GE is kind of keeping the lights on and connecting people around the globe. At the same time, we've got a lot of countervailing factors and a lot of opposing forces working globally today. That is trying to limit carbon emissions to stop the rise in temperature. At the same time, there's a huge portion of the global population that is without power. Plus, one of the main factors and main actors in this story are profit-driven companies. So sustainability is becoming an issue because of those needs, and also we're starting to look at it as a business case for companies. So just to kind of give us the idea of where GE is coming at this question from, I wanted you to kind of tell us what is GE's focus on sustainability, and how are you trying to square that circle of helping reduce climate change, but also bringing the power to the people that don't have it yet globally?
Anthony, thank you for that. You've summed up, I think, a very complicated issue in a very concise way, and hit a lot of things I think we can cover. And thank you for the honor and the opportunity to share these thoughts. You're right that people think of sustainability in many different ways. I think of it very simplistically. Sustainability is all about lifting up the quality of life for all people in the world. There's a huge equitable component to it. We want everybody to have access to reliable, affordable, sustainable energy. We want everyone to have access to the ability to connect with their friends and their family and their job opportunities through transportation. We want everyone to have access to healthcare, including the half of the world's population that's underserved. So we have a 129-year legacy of working through innovation and technology to lift up the quality of life of people in the world. And so sustainability is an opportunity to align our business goals with the world's most pressing challenges. You asked about the energy transition, climate change specifically. Climate change, clearly one of the most pressing issues on the planet, impacting people right now through extreme weather events and other impacts of climate change. But at the same time, as you pointed out, we want everyone to have access to reliable, affordable, sustainable electricity. Kids need to turn the lights on to do their homework, to have access to healthcare, so families have economic opportunities so they can prosper. And so our focus at GE is using innovation and technology to do two things at once. We want to decarbonize the energy sector. We want to remove as much carbon as we can while we're generating electricity, but we also want to make electricity as resilient as possible. And we think we can do these two things together. We think they're mutually achievable: decarbonize the energy sector through innovation technology and make energy more resilient at the same time.
So let me press you on for some specifics there. When you talk about decarbonization, that's obviously a big word and a big push there. So just to be specific, how are you going to be doing that? And obviously different parts of the world have different needs. So perhaps decarbonization would mean solar or wind in one part of the world, whereas moving away from coal in another part of the world. So really, what's the push there, and is it going to be fast enough when we talk about rising temperatures?
You're absolutely right. We couldn't agree more that every part of the world has different needs, every country, every region. We work in 170 countries, and we're very shy about one-size-fits-all solutions. We think these solutions have to be tailored to local conditions, and we approach it in two ways. One is you want to have the best technology you can to reduce emissions as quickly as possible while building resiliency. But you also have to be looking around the corner at breakthrough technologies. We're not going to solve it today with the technology that's currently on the table. We can make progress, but we're not going to get to where we need to be. So we have to be making progress today. We have to be investing for tomorrow. So for today, we focus on renewable energy. It's probably pretty obvious. We want to build renewable energy as much as the grid can absorb it. More capable wind, more capable solar, hydro. But we have to balance that with a base load of reliable electricity from grid power, which provides very efficient, from gas power, which provides very efficient baseload to make sure we have a resilient network to bring on the renewables. And we also need a sophisticated grid system, both hardware and software, so that everything works together, not only because of the variability of renewables, but because of increasing demand, because of more severe weather events. So that's step number one is let's reduce emissions as quickly as we can through introducing renewables, gas power, a combination of grid. Part two is investing in these breakthrough technologies, working today in our labs, like we're literally working today in our labs, working on technology for the next 10, 12, 15 years, carbon capture sequestration, hydrogen as a fuel, advanced small modular nuclear reactors, advanced jet engines. And these are things you may not see from us for 10, 12, 15 years, but we're working on them today. We have to make those investments now to get to that next level step towards the net zero goals that everybody shares.
What do you mean by breakthrough technologies? I mean, a lot of those things that you mentioned are things that we have. We've been talking about hydrogen for many years. To use the cliche that we hear a lot, it's always the next big thing in energy, similar to nuclear energy as well, which we've heard about a renaissance of that many times. So far, it hasn't happened. So these are kind of things that we've already got. What's so breakthrough about those things?
Well, hydrogen's a great example. So you're right about your proposition. We have over 100 GE turbines that have run over 8 million hours on hydrogen. And so our turbines today can run on hydrogen. We have turbines running on hydrogen. That's very positive. The challenge comes in how do we make hydrogen available in a commercial kind of, how do we scale it up in a way that we can go from those 8 million hours to the point where we're running turbines regularly on 50% hydrogen, ultimately 90%, 100%. So that's where the breakthrough has to come in. We've done some work, we've had some success, but we have more work to do to get to that point. And it is pretty challenging. We have the concepts out there, we have the science out there, but how do you commercialize these things, get them up to scale? Similarly for small modular reactors, for carbon capture sequestration, the theories have been tested. We know the technology works, but we have to bring things up to that next level step. And that's the type of investments we're making today.
Well, when you're getting to that next level step, if you're trying to decarbonize, if you're trying to cut something, you need to know what you're cutting from. So when are you going to have a number or an idea of what are those emissions that you're trying to cut? Those people that buy your turbines or use your jet engines, the so-called scope 3 emissions, as the industry calls them. When are you going to have an idea of those, and when are you going to publish that number so that people can have some benchmarks for what GE is cutting and what progress you are making?
I think people will increasingly see from GE and other companies more granularity about what this time frame looks like between now and 2050. I'll predict there'll be more details in the near term. We may be able to tell you like the next 5 years, here's what we think we can do. Over the next 10 years, we think we can do this. Maybe it's a little fuzzier. Over the next 15 to 20 years, this is where these technologies come in. So I think you will be seeing more of that. I anticipate you'll be seeing that from GE. You'll be seeing it from other companies. It's going to be, a little bit of not entirely quantitative, partially qualitative too, and saying in the near term, here's what we think we can achieve with emissions. Longer term, here's where we anticipate these technologies will kick in, and here's some broader goals we're going to set when they do come on board.
But this is also a tough sell. This is doing something new. This is changing the business. Already GE is in the throes of change, splitting into 3 companies over the next 3 to 5 years or so. So how are you making this, selling this to your investors, to your board members in terms of the need to push this sustainability agenda? Why does it become now a business case? Why is it profitable for companies now?
I'd like to believe there's a lot of consensus among all our stakeholders, our investors, our customers, our employees, governments, that we need to solve these pressing sustainability issues of the energy transition, precision health, the future of flight. And what's going to solve it? Policies are important. We understand the science at this point. What's going to solve it is innovation. It's going to be technology. And if you think of the complexity of this, these are really hard problems. You think of the physics that we're working against. You need a company like GE that's been innovating for 129 years at this scale. Some of the world's most complicated technologies, when you're talking about gas turbines and jet engines and things like that, to bring it to that next level of innovation. I think everybody agrees someone has to do this. And I would like to think people would agree few companies are better positioned, given our scale, given our legacy, given our history, our technical expertise, than GE. Not only do this for the company, it's great for business because we are so aligned with sustainability, but it's important for the planet too, and this legacy of lifting up the quality of life for people in the 170 countries where we operate.
Well, Roger, you've got your work cut out for you. One parting word from you. What is something that we should be doing now, but we're not doing? I
think more partnership. I think, we have traditionally thought governments work on policy and companies are kind of out there doing their competitive thing and, working kind of introverted in their own world. No entity is going to solve this on their own. No government, no company the size or scale of GE. If we're going to solve this, we're going to need odd bedfellows. We're going to need partnerships. We're going to need collaboration with our competitors, working with governments that perhaps we didn't work with before, stakeholders, NGOs. So we need to kind of get past some of those traditional barriers and just agree we're going to, we have the same goals. Let's come together and let's figure out how we can work throughout this whole chain to be successful here.
Well, we'll look for you out there spreading the word and fighting the good fight, as it were. Roger Martella, thanks very much for being with us and sharing your views.
Anthony, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, and welcome back to the live part of our panel. We just heard from GE. They're talking about their view of sustainability, looking at it from a decarbonization point of view and trying to take some of those polluting emissions out of the energy sector. So we're here, as I said, talking about sustainability as a business case. I guess we should also be talking about calling this perhaps the Adaptability Summit as well too, because some of us here live, some of us are on video connections, but that won't stop us from having a great discussion here about the issues. We've got a great panel. To my left is Jasim Thabet. He's the CEO of Abu Dhabi power producer TAQA, which is becoming kind of a national champion and international growth engine for energy in the United Arab Emirates. We've got Eugene Willemsen. He's the regional CEO for PepsiCo, covering the Middle East, covering Africa, some of South Asia. He'll tell us more about that. And on video, we've got Bill Vass. He's VP of Engineering for Amazon Web Services. Hi, Bill. And after that, we'll hear from Helen Clarkson, who's with the Climate Group. She was able to record some comments for us. I was able to submit a couple questions for her to talk about some of the themes that we're going to discuss, and she wasn't able to join us now. But let's start with you, Eugene, because I was interested to hear about really the footprint that you have. Just some of the most obvious products that you make at PepsiCo are potato chips, drinks from juices, waters, sodas. So you're a huge user of agricultural products. You're a huge user of water as well. Water, of course, as we know, is a major issue in terms of its sustainability, its availability, and how we really shepherd those resources and make sure that those are there for future generations. So tell us a little bit about what you think your industry could be doing better to really be a custodian of what is there and how you're selling that as a business case.
Great. Well, first of all, pleasure to be here, Anthony. And I'm just picking up on the point of sustainability at large. So we launched PEP Positive, which for us is a end-to-end transformation of the value chain in which we participate. And as you mentioned, of course, we have a significant agricultural footprint. So we work with about 100,000 farmers globally in 60 countries, 25 different crops from the ones that you mentioned, potato, corn, sugar, all kinds of fruits, but also including oats and other grains. And as you look at the water usage, there is a lot of work that we're doing internally to, first of all, significantly reduce the amount of water that we're using within what we call our own four walls. And so we have a lot of best practices, whether it's in our food factories or in our beverage factories, to continuously reduce that water. But recently, as part of PEP Positive, we also committed ourselves to become net water positive by the year 2030. Now, that means that actually, in aggregate, we're going to replenish more water than the water that we're consuming across our total value chain. So we're working with all of the stakeholders within our value chain, so farmers to reduce the water that they're using to grow our crops, working within our own four walls, but then also we're replenishing water by working with other stakeholders. So just as an example, in Saudi Arabia, and I mentioned to you I was there last week, and we have this project going on in Wadi Dawasir, which is close to our Riyadh snacks factory. We're working there with farmers that grow alfalfa, and we're deploying techniques with them that enable them actually to significantly reduce the water they're using. And as a result, we're able to replenish more water than we're consuming within our Riyadh facility by the end of this quarter. So that's just one example, and that is true across PepsiCo's operations globally. So a significant commitment, a lot of hard work going on within our four walls, but also across the entire value chain.
Yeah, so a focus on making sure that those resources are there, well used, and continue to be used. So interesting, that initiative, PEP Positive. I wonder, though, if maybe you're rethinking the branding of that, given the last couple of years that we've all lived through. But jokes aside, I wanted to, talk to Bill now about that's a very clear example of something that you're able to do on the ground, reducing your own emissions and your own use of the resources. So, Bill, for you, we hear a lot about emissions from power use at server farms, so much so that some countries have even had to close down server farms because of energy use. But what you're doing is also a lot of AI, a lot of technology that you're giving to clients. So tell us a little bit about how the interplay between yourselves as Amazon Web Services cutting your own use, as well as enabling your customers and your clients via that technology to really focus on cutting their emissions.
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, internally, what we're doing is we've gone through and basically moved all of our power generation and buying to renewable energy for our data centers pretty much across the board. We're the largest buyer of renewable energy today. As we transform those data centers over to renewable through buying wind, solar, and water, hydroelectric, and also green hydrogen as we operate in those spaces. In addition to that, as our customers migrate to this consolidation in the cloud, they reduce their carbon footprint by about 88%. We're also investing internally in everything from quantum computing to new processors like our Graviton processors that's 2 to 3 times lower power utilization per gigaflop, if you like, as they process than more traditional computers or traditional processors there. So in addition to that, Amazon as a whole, we're committed to be entirely running on renewable energy by 2030. And I think it looks like we're going to reach that by 2025. And our largest power utilization isn't actually our data centers, although you think of those as large power utilization as well. And we're certainly focused there. It's actually our logistics supply chain on that side. So we've purchased over 100,000 battery electric vehicles. We've got hydrogen vehicles. We've got green hydrogen going to offset power on grids where we can't buy enough green electrons. So pretty much there's an end-to-end investment between our climate pledge and our investment there, and all the other companies that have signed up to that climate pledge to exceed the Paris Accord from a timing perspective. And our customers are driving us there as well. Customers can move to their data centers, move from their on-prem data centers into the cloud, immediately reduce their carbon footprint. And it's sort of the demand that our customers have across the board. And the most interesting thing to me is we're actually reducing our cost by moving to renewable energy, by moving to battery electric vehicles, for example, diesel trucks, and moving to hydrogen. Those kinds of things kind of across the board. There in the UAE, we're working with Masdar and ADNOC to get green energy for our new region that's coming up there. So there is pretty much across the board. In addition to that, working with companies on the efficiency in their supply chain, working for companies on their own efficiency with smart buildings, smart cities, with our IoT systems, machine learning systems for optimization, and even, in the future, quantum computing to optimize the production, for example, of ammonia, which could be another transport for hydrogen.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about helping the clients look at their own efficiency. I mean, a lot of ink has been spilled about computers and whether we've really gotten the productivity gains out of them that we could. Perhaps this is one area where those will really come into their own. And I picked up also on that comment, Bill, about wanting to fully use renewable energy by 2030 and possibly hitting that earlier by 2025 in all of your your facilities. I think somebody who knows about that is Jasim. We were talking a little bit about the need for a reliable base load for energy, as well as being augmented by renewable energy. And we've heard about how the UAE is moving ahead with its targets in terms of becoming net zero, in terms of renewable energy. You're kind of at the forefront, at the vanguard there. So tell us a little bit about how you and the rest of your industry are looking to bring those renewables into the system and keep it reliable, keep it providing the power that people need, and then how that's becoming, again, a business case. You just issued a green bond today on one of your solar plants for about $700 million. Is that something that we're going to be seeing more of to make these initiatives really prove themselves as a business case, as something that can support debt, can support equity, and provide real returns?
Yeah, sure, Anthony. So again, I mean, just taking a step back, Abu Dhabi and the UAE, sustainability has been at the heart of everything that we do here. And we see it from Mazda from 15 years ago, investing in over 30 countries. Specifically, TAQA being a fully integrated power and water company, we fit in that space very well. And sustainability is at the heart of everything we do. We launched our 10-year strategy last year, and we said that we'll increase renewable penetration or concentration from 5%, it'll represent 30% of our capacity. And also a very important component for Abu Dhabi and the UAE is not many people know how much power consumption water desal takes from the system. So there's a big shift, and we're rolling out more efficient reverse osmosis water desal plants, which are 6 times more efficient compared to your traditional ones. And on the renewable, like you said, we closed today the $700 million bond, and that's for our plant in Noor Abu Dhabi, which is in the Suihan area, which is the largest solar plant on one site, with a capacity of circa 1 gigawatts. And it's true, the shift to renewables is not a switch on-off that you can do. So at the same time, we're investing in more efficient, more flexible combined cycle gas turbines. Currently, we're building a power plant in the Fujairah, the F3, with a capacity of 2.4 gigawatts, which once completed, it'll be the most efficient and largest combined cycle power plant in the UAE. But that's on the generation side. If I take a step back also, it's very important that we look at the complete picture, and that is managing the demand side. So we're doing a lot of projects on the demand side. We're investing 1 billion dirhams in TSE, treated sewage effluent networks, connecting Abu Dhabi to Al Ain and Abu Dhabi to Dubai, the farms on the way to better utilize the precious water resources. And also we're investing in demand side management projects, helping our customers and coming closer to our end users to really help them contribute to their savings. And we're investing in networks. We've committed to invest 40 billion dirhams in networks, power and water for the future.
Yeah, I mean, that raises a couple really interesting points. I mean, one of the first ones that comes to me is that comment about efficiency. I've often heard it remarked that one of the greatest energy resources is not using energy. That's how we can get, we can meet our consumption just by cutting it. So where else in your industries are we seeing the use cut, more efficiency coming out? Where's the scope for that?
Again, the efficiencies is us rolling out more renewable solar projects. We're currently on top of the Noor Abu Dhabi. We're building almost twice the size of that Noor project in the Al Dhafra region with a capacity of 2 gigawatts, and really focusing on with the solar coming online, with the also connecting the Baraka nuclear plant to the transmission grid. There is more opportunities to decouple the power and water and focus on the water desal, which is really a big component of the power consumption for the UAE.
Yeah. And Eugene, in your industry, do you think the industry is doing enough? There's kind of a nexus between people eating healthier, looking at their diet, and this idea that feeds into sustainability as well. Is your industry doing enough, you think, to get people to make those right choices that will help them to, obviously you want them to continue consuming your products, but to make those right choices that are good choices for the environment as well?
Yeah, so if you look at our positive strategic framework, there's essentially three pillars. So one is positive agriculture. Second is positive value chain, which touches on some of the elements that you just discussed in terms of also moving to a net zero company by 2040. And then the third one is positive choices. And that's all about the portfolio, enabling our consumers to make choices that are good for them and good for the planet. And if you look at the portfolio that we have today, and of course a portfolio that continues to evolve, it's a portfolio that straddles from indulgent to healthy choices, and then we continue to evolve that portfolio over time as well.
But we've got so many different sectors here. We've heard about efficiency in AI, we've heard about renewables, we've heard about healthy choices. When you're talking about an issue like sustainability, how do we make sense of the different industries and put something together so that people can tell whether a company that they're a partner with or that they're buying a product from is being sustainable? We talk a lot about investors now also looking to go into a sustainable company. Bill, just from your point of view, what can you tell to potential investors, to potential industry about the standards, about how you're really measuring what you're doing in terms of positive impact?
Yeah, I think important measurement and metrics, and that's an area where IoT systems can really help in your supply chain or even in the production lines and the power plants and things like that, to really understand how much carbon is being emitted, whether it be methane or others types of emissions, along with the power reduction that's occurring, along with the different types of energy that you're buying kind of across the board. All of those kind of BI tools and metrics are available to anyone. And I think investors need and consumers need to demand more of understanding exactly how much carbon is generated in the different things that they purchase. I think ultimately something like what you see is a calorie count on something you buy. You may see the amount of carbon that's generated in something you buy as well, so consumers can make a choice. Certainly investors are making a choice, and the companies, for example, that run on AWS today make big choices of their cloud providers, not just based on availability and performance and lower cost, but also in being able to claim reduction in carbon, which we certainly do. Like I mentioned before, just moving to the cloud is about an 88% reduction in your emissions in relation to compared to an on-prem data center today, because of the efficiency that we've built into our data centers and the fact that we are all of our data center power is ultimately being offset or purchased by green energy. So you sort of get that. I think again, looking at the supply chains across the board and holding companies accountable for their end-to-end supply chain, not just their operations, say reducing power in a building and reducing power in a data center, but also the full end-to-end supply chain, the things that feed the data center, the manufacturing that feed the data center. I think collecting those metrics and understanding them are going to be how we're going to get there. And I think there's also, sequestering and offsets are going to be an important piece, because as we mentioned before, you can't just flip a switch. You have to make sure you're offsetting in addition to buying renewable.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that consumers need to be able to measure what they're doing also to make those right choices. And I would think hopefully it comes in kind of a usable and understandable means for customers so they can make those right choices. Let's hear now from Helen Clarkson. She works is the CEO for the Climate Group, and they are focused on advising companies on plans on how to do sustainability, how to implement these measures. So I had the chance to ask her a couple questions, submit by email. So let's see what she has to say about the theme and about how you guys are doing and what you guys might be able to do more of in the future as well.
Hello, and thanks for having me here today. I've been asked to reflect on how we measure companies' progress and how we gauge which efforts are truly effective. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the initiatives that my organisation, the Climate Group, runs. So at the Climate Group, we're known for bringing together large networks with commitments at the centre, such as RE100, EV100 and Steel Zero. And our campaigns are based around either getting to 100% or going down to zero. And the critical thing about those campaigns is if companies set, say, a 95 or a 97% target for renewable energy, that would be great. But everyone in the company then assumes they're in the 5% or the 3% that's left. When you set a 100% target, everyone knows that that applies to them, and it means the whole company has to be bought into the initiative. And that's really critical because it moves something like RE100 from the preserve of being, the work of the sustainability team right into the centre of the business. So to hold our members to account, we do year-on-year reporting, and we do that in partnership for the RE100 campaign with CDP. We publish our reports on our website, and they're open to the public. And the most basic level of the report is that transparency piece. So companies need to disclose how they're doing, or if they choose not to, we also report that. But the most exciting bit of the report is it allows us to build a narrative and a path for the community around each initiative, because it allows us to spot trends, both in successes and challenges amongst our members. Just a couple of weeks ago, we published the annual report for the RE100 campaign, and we asked members which markets are presenting the biggest barriers to them at the moment, and Japan and Korea were the most frequently cited. And that allows us to build a program of work with our members. And in the last couple of years, we've seen markets in those regions come a long way, in part in the response to that work that we're doing with our RE100 members. And our work has led to even more Asian Pacific members joining up and being part of that market transformation. So by finding common themes among our members, we can work with them to be a joint voice for change and use that power of the collective rather than everyone having to take on individual battles. And that's important because while a lot of airtime is given to new technologies and shiny new solutions, we already have a lot of the technology that we need for change. But what we need now is policy measures and infrastructure. And governments need to bring those along to help businesses develop the actions that they've committed to. So our initiatives and the way we work with businesses allows us to hold them to account, but it also allows us to look at the relevant markets and advocate for system-wide change. It allows our members to be greater than the sum of their parts, which is a role that they take on with enthusiasm. Recently, we were at COP26 in Glasgow, and one of the things that I kept hearing was that COP21, so Paris, was all about leadership, and COP26 was all about partnerships. And through our initiatives, we aim to deliver both. Thank you.
Yeah, so setting real metrics, keeping people accountable for it, and really focusing on what we've got now. Helen mentioned technologies and really implementing what we've got. So Jasim, why don't we just go to you for a final closing remark on what we've got coming down the pike? What can we expect in terms of new technologies that will come out and help us, or do we have those technologies already?
Well, I think from a power and water company, what's really exciting and what we see a lot of potential is the green hydrogen. We have all the right ingredients here in the UAE: cheap solar power and the reverse osmosis technology, and being able to work closer with big industry players like the AD Ports or the Emirates Steels. That I see in the next maybe 2 to 5 years will be very exciting.
Yeah, okay, so we've got the hydrogen coming. Obviously, nuclear in the UAE already exists, and we're working on the renewables. So that will continue to diversify the mix, and with initiatives like Eugene and Bill have told us about, we'll be focusing on regenerating those resources that we're using, as well as harnessing AI and technology to really benefit those efforts. So I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us. Bill, thanks very much for joining us from the United States.
Yeah.
And I was really happy that we were able to get at least 3 of us together
Likewise,
here in Abu
likewise.
Dhabi.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thanks for the great discussion. And we will now hand it back over.